Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us for a very special night with the Institute of Public Affairs Digital Town Hall event. I'm joined by my highly esteemed colleague, Director of Research, Morgan Begg. Morgan, thank you for your time and thank you for your work. We're here to discuss Morgan's latest piece of work on Australia's national anthem, which follows in a series of work on Australia's national symbols, including our flag and also on Australia Day. You will see that here today we do have three flags with us, but don't worry, they're all the Australian flag. So it is good to have the flag here being represented. And what we're going to do tonight is Morgan's going to talk us through his monograph and the reasons he's written it and what he learned about the national anthem. And we're also going to take some of your questions. So we have a whole stack of questions that have been sent through. So thank you to everybody who sent through your questions. If you've not sent through a question and you would like to, you can send through a question on the chat function and we'll get to as many of your questions as we can. I also wanted to acknowledge our chairman, Jeff Hone, chairman of the IPA, who was on the line with us this evening. Jeff, thank you for being with us. So like I mentioned, today we released a very important piece of work, which is on the history and importance of Australia's national anthem. Now, the reason we do this work is to provide the intellectual understanding and underpinnings for why it's so important that Australians understand and retain our shared monuments, symbols, days and songs. I mentioned Australia Day, the national flag, and now the national anthem. We're obviously in a time of very significant division in our nation, and Australians are wanting us to unite around those things that we share in common. So we've released this monograph today, and Morgan's been very busy in the media talking about this. There's been a lot of interest in it. And we also, alongside the release of this monograph, released some polling that we undertook on this matter, asking Australians about their attitudes towards the national anthem. And I thought I might just start by going over some of this polling because I think it's very interesting. We hear a lot of discussion in the media that, Australia is a backwards, racist country, that we're not worth celebrating, not worth defending. But when you actually ask Australians what they think of our country and our symbols and our songs, it turns out that they support it in the same way that we do. So just very quickly, we commissioned the independent marketing research firm Dynata to undertake a number of questions of a nationally representative sample of Australians on their attitudes towards the anthem. The first question was, the current national anthem should be retained. Do you agree or disagree with that? 77% of Australians want to keep the anthem. Only 7% do not want to keep it. That included 62% of those aged 18 to 24 and just 9% of that age cohort who did not want to keep the anthem. We also asked, do you agree that Australia's national anthem unifies us as a country? 76% said yes, 8% said no, and 72% of the young cohort said yes, and 11% said no. Now, what was also interesting, and you may have heard earlier this year, it was the Northern Territory government that mandated that all public schools in the Northern Territory must sing Australia's national anthem at school assemblies. A very good policy, I think. And it turns out Australians also think it's a very good policy, with 71% saying they agree with that decision. Only 10% said they did not agree. And that included 66% of young Australians who agree, 10% who do not. But it's this last one here that's my favourite. We asked, the Australian national anthem should be sung at major sporting events instead of welcome to country ceremonies. 71% of Australians agree, 11% disagree. And that includes 69% of 18 to 24-year-olds who agree and just 19% who disagree. So I was very buoyed by those results. I think it was a great basis upon which to launch this very important piece of work. So I will hand over to Morgan to give us just a few minutes overview of what you found and what you learned about the national anthem and what you've written in your excellent research essay.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dan. And yes, much like our findings on in relation to Australia Day and the flag, the data shows that Australians overwhelmingly support these national symbols. And I came into this project on the national anthem a bit unsure of what I'd find, actually. At one level, there's just not a lot written about Advanced Australia Fair in particular, and just Australian national anthems in general. And so, I've had to go through a lot of primary sources, a lot of records to uncover exactly what is going on here. And a lot of the common story told about the Advanced Australia Fair is frankly misunderstood. So for me, I came away from this with a much higher estimation and opinion of Advanced Australia Fair. It was totally unknown to me just how far back into our history and in our nation's roots it goes.
Yes.
So,
because Advanced Australia goes back to colonial times. It actually goes back a long way.
That's
early 1800s.
Yeah. I was completely, I was quite ignorant about this, but we know Advanced Australia Fair, and that was written in 1878. So that in and of itself, the song in and of itself is from our colonial era and comes from a tradition of colonial patriotic songmaking. But Advanced Australia actually goes back as early as I could find, was in use in a unofficial coat of arms in 1821. And it was in very common usage in the 1830s and 1840s to the point that it was recognised as a colonial motto. And Advanced Australia, in the way that it was used at the time, was a sort of a toast to the future of Australia. You would say, advance, like, let's build Australia. Let's make this a great place. Advanced Australia.
Yep.
And P.D. McCormick, who writes Advanced Australia Fair, he uses this. He takes this on and makes a song out of it, Advanced Australia Fair. And the whole song is about coming together and building a great country. And I just thought, that's such a terrific message for a national anthem.
Yes.
Especially in times such as these, and which there is increasing social fragmentation, a collapse in trust in institutions, sort of a high levels of disengagement among people generally.
Yep.
But there's this message in our national anthem about, well, actually, we can come together and we can make a great country.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing that a lot of people probably know about is that we did have a national vote on this matter in 1977. And am I right in saying that we're one of the only countries to have had a national vote on this matter? I don't think
a nation, like, to the extent at this level, I mean, I have found no comparable, equivalent in anywhere else in the world. And I mean, this is high number, a high turnout at the 1977 plebiscite on the selection of a national song. And of course, at that vote, it was God Save the Queen, Advanced Australia Fair, Song of Australia, and Waltzing Matilda.
Yep.
4 very worthy songs that could be selected as the national song.
Yep.
They each had their merits, and at the end of the day, Advanced Australia Fair comes out on top with 43% of the primary vote.
Yes. Well, okay, let's go into a little bit of the actual mechanics of the plebiscite, because I think it's really interesting and something that hasn't necessarily been delved into a whole lot. So you mentioned when we were talking about this something very interesting, which is that in a way, Advanced Australia Fair was almost the song of choice among certain political elites who wanted to diminish the status of British culture in our society at the time. And so they sort of went about this in a somewhat disingenuous way, didn't they?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And like I said, this is not really discussed much at all. But in the 1970s, Gough Whitlam comes to power, and it's a big part of his agenda, especially early on, is symbolic change.
Yes.
Taking away British symbols. The Order of Australia is created. But in particular, he unilaterally changes the national anthem in 1974 and changes it to Advanced Australia Fair. And, it's quite interesting that after Whitlam is sacked, and one of the first decisions that the Fraser government makes in January 1976 is to change the national anthem back to God Save the Queen.
Right.
But at the same time, the process is initiated to hold this vote, a plebiscite on the selection of a national song. But what's interesting is that the government is very explicit throughout this whole period that this is a vote about a national song, not about a national anthem. And on the ballot paper at the 1977 vote, it says, against the backdrop that the national anthem is God Save the Queen and will continue to be God Save the Queen,
Yes.
would you like to express a preference for a national tune or for a tune to be a national song?
And they still had God Save the Queen as an option.
Still, so for this non-national anthem, national song, put aside, about 1/5 of voters still selected God Save the Queen.
Yeah.
Which is quite, I find a bit of humour in that.
Yep.
Maybe they saw the writing on the wall that this was secretly a vote for a national anthem.
Yeah.
Because, as history tells us, the outcome of this vote is essentially used as the mandate for Bob Hawke in 1984 to change the national anthem officially to Advance Australia Fair.
Yeah, it's interesting. So do you reckon if that question were phrased in a different way, if it was just straight up, which song do you want to be the anthem? What do you think would have happened?
It's such an interesting question. Because I think
know, obviously.
we can't know, and unfortunately, we never did get that definitive vote on whether people back then wanted to change the national anthem.
Yeah.
But what's quite interesting about this plebiscite is that it wasn't just based on the primary vote. It was a 2-song preferred vote.
Yes.
So
The two SP.
the 2SP. Yeah. And so we don't know where the preference. So we don't know what the actual first preference for God Save the Queen would have been, or where the preferences would have flowed to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So it is interesting to go through the results because no song got a majority. So Advance Australia Fair got 43% across the country. Only New South Wales voted for that in a majority with 51%.
Well, it's quite interesting because Advance Australia Fair is intrinsically tied to New South Wales history.
Yes, and that's
going back to the colonial times.
Yeah. Was there in your research on this? Because I'm fascinated by this because I know a lot of you online were here when we talked about the flag. It's a flag monograph, and that one of the things I found so interesting about the flag was that it was really an initiative of the community because they had that contest in the early Federation time to come up with a flag.
Yep.
And so it was a product of the community, which is one of the reasons why people don't want to change it because it wasn't a product of the elites. In a way, the anthem was a bit more of an elitist undertaking, but it does also seem that people were interested in the community. What did you learn about that?
Well, why don't I'll take a step back there because the flag came from the community. Well, Advance Australia Fair comes from the community.
Right.
P.D. McCormick is just a composer and musician.
Right.
And in 1878, he attends a concert in Sydney, and at that concert they're playing a bunch of national anthems from around the world. And he comes away and he thinks that Australia doesn't have a song that can be put into a show like that. We don't have it. We don't have an anthem in Australia. And he provides it, Advance Australia Fair, and it's the first of the patriotic Australian songs to really achieve a sort of major level of success.
Yeah.
So for decades, there were musicians in Australia who were writing patriotic songs, right? But none of them really took off.
Yeah.
Advance Australia Fair was the first one, and it's always just been present. It's always just been in the sort of the zeitgeist of Australian society. It's played at the inauguration of the Commonwealth in 1901 by a massive choir. It was played.
It was 10,000 in the
10,000. Yeah, it was massive.
10,000.
Some like
that's huge,
insane number. I can't even actually comprehend what that would be like. Yeah. During the Second World War, Advance Australia Fair takes on a major position. It's played in cinemas and on news broadcasts on the radio to sort of build up national sentiment at the time. And then, by the 1970s, and you have this vote, and there's just a high level of engagement with Advance Australia Fair in the community.
Yeah.
Because you would think Waltzing Matilda, for instance, is such an Australian song.
Very Australian.
Such an Australian song. There's actually, it's fair way. It's a fair deficit
Yes.
behind Advanced Australia Fair.
Well, I think Advanced Australia Fair is a midpoint between God Save the King and Waltzing Matilda. It's more of a, I would say Advanced Australia Fair is more of a statesman-like song than Waltzing Matilda, but it's not as formal as God Save the King.
Yeah.
I think it's a very much a midpoint. I mean, I like Waltzing Matilda, and I don't know what I would have voted for if put in front of me, but I probably would have voted for Waltzing Matilda.
Yeah.
I prefer that because I think it is.
I've been hearing that all day. Yeah.
I think it is more of an Australian
Yeah.
song in its own way. But interestingly, the only state or territory to have the highest vote for Waltzing Matilda was the ACT.
Yeah.
And that would sort of suggest that Waltzing Matilda was the most anti-British song.
That
That
would
would be-
be, this is, there's so hard to find this information, but Fraser in particular at the time is very pro Waltzing Matilda. And he actually, so before this vote is held, ahead of the Montreal Olympics in 1976, he directs the Australian Olympic Federation to use Waltzing Matilda on medal ceremonies should Australia win. Australia didn't win in that Olympics. So that was actually the one occasion in which Waltzing Matilda would have been used as a quasi national anthem. It didn't actually get up. So
Okay.
I believe that Waltzing Matilda was also the choice of Whitlam, who was the opposition leader. So the PM and the opposition leader at this time both had expressed their support for Waltzing Matilda
Right.
in this plebiscite.
Do you know if they campaigned on it? Or they didn't? There was no real campaign.
No, I didn't see any. At most referendums, you would have for instance, a yes committee and a no committee, and you would have campaign bodies that would essentially organise. But for this, I could not find any evidence that there was any organisation that was promoting.
Okay.
And of course, the monarchist organisations, even they're established well after this.
Right.
So, you would think theoretically they would sort of be active on something like this, but they don't exist yet, really, in a meaningful way. Yeah.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, if you want to send through some questions, we've got a lot coming through, so feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can after we have this discussion. There is sort of an interesting one here as well, which is the Song of Australia. And so it was only South Australia that voted for that. So 34% put that as their top choice, which was higher than the next second highest, which was 24% for Advanced Australia Fair, and Waltzing Matilda had just a slightly below 24%. And we do actually have a question about Song of Australia, and I have a soft spot being South Australian. This is a product of the great state of South Australia, and I will read this question now, Morgan, if you don't mind. Maybe
it's a good one.
Yeah, and you could have a bit of a chat about that. So this is from Rosemary, and Rosemary asks, why was Song of Australia not chosen with lyrics written by British-born poet Caroline Carleton and music composed by German-born Karl Linger in 1859? It was the winning entry in the competition sponsored by the Gawler Institute and was sung by schoolchildren every week as they saluted the flag and repeated their oath of loyalty. It was a very pretty and moving piece, much more relevant than Girt by Sea. I long for the day when Australia comes to its senses and reclaims this beautiful anthem. So that's from Rosemary. So talk a little bit about Song of Australia, because it's a little bit of a unique one compared to the other.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that it does actually, as Rosemary mentions, it predates Advanced Australia Fair by some almost 20 years, but there is some criticism. So it's interesting. So there was a competition in which this was the winning entry, and one of the criticisms that was made about Song of Australia is that it was overly simple. And that was actually one of the requirements of the competition, because it had to be so simple that the music could be readily provided for it. Yeah. And that's the music that Karl Linger provides. So it is that's just a bit of an explanation for why it didn't quite take off originally. In the sort of early Federation era, it picks up again. And there's references to MPs in the 1920s calling on song of Australia to be made a national anthem. And as Hansard tells us, that was shouted down by the chamber. So the reality is, it's a terrific song. Like the other options that were put forward in 1977, absolutely worthy of being an anthem. But it just seems that its popularity never extended beyond South Australia's borders.
No, you can see that in the vote. I think the next highest was WA. Was it 15 or something?
Yeah. In the nationwide, it's less than 10%.
Yeah.
I'm open to the idea of states having anthems.
Right.
So maybe it could be a state anthem.
Yes. It's not a bad campaign there. Now, of course, like with everything else, like with our National Day, like with our flag, it is the anthem has been the subject of attacks. But I don't think it's been as much or as intense as, certainly not as much as Australia Day, which has been attacked the most, I would say, at least in recent years.
Yeah.
And the flag has been attacked probably second to Australia Day.
Yeah.
I know the activists had a big run up at Anzac Day over the years, but that's kind of subsided. I mean, there's a controversy about welcome to country ceremonies.
We can talk about that.
We can get into that if we want.
Yeah.
That's probably for another discussion. But you do have an interesting chapter on the criticisms of the anthem from the perspective of those who basically don't like Australia.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. The national anthem is proclaimed in 1984, and early on, the criticisms that were made about it were about the lyrics. They were about the tune. Oh, it's Alan Border, who was the cricket legend, says that it's not quite the stirring anthem.
Doesn't fire
that
people
doesn't
up.
In his view, it didn't fire people up. Girt by Sea has always been challenged. That's just a perennial in commentary about the national anthem. But you would have to say that the criticisms that were made at that time were made in good faith.
Yeah.
That it was like, oh, we actually just want a better
song.
Better song.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But around about starting in the late 90s, early 2000s, you really you see a different narrative pick up. And the criticism is more about what an alleged underlying idea about the national anthem being a colonial anthem. About, this is a white man's anthem. This is about British. This is still about British Australia. This excludes Indigenous people. Funnily enough, it's the exact same arguments that have been made about the flag, and the exact same arguments that have been made about Australia Day. It's this whole decolonialist ideology, which is latching onto these symbols as part of a broader effort to deconstruct or delegitimize Australia's history. So I found, just some different examples of where the sort of different directions this has gone in. One of the earlier ones in the early 2000s is a writer. I won't mention his name, but he attacked.
You're too kind.
Too kind. But he attacks I was staggered by this, but he attacks the word fair. He says, actually, the problem with the national anthem is the use of the word fair, because in his view, fair actually refers to fair-skinned people. And so this is about advancing Australia in a fair-skinned way.
Yeah.
And you could, so as history tells us, that argument didn't really take off. No, I think it was, but that was the kind of the underlying idea has been picked up on.
Yes.
And of course, up until 2021, one of the lines refers to young and free, with Australians, for we are young and free. That was really picked up by activists as a problem. That this implied that, Australian history only started in
settlements,
1788 or 1901 or whatever the challenge is, but that ignores all of Australian history, or it disregards it or discards it, and that has been a feature of recurring debates over the last 20-25 years to, this means we need a new national anthem. This means we need to rewrite the national anthem. You get a a reconciliation group in the late 2010s who undertake this big program to provide a new national anthem, and it even gets the support of Bob Hawke before he dies,
Right.
who signs onto it.
Even though he had
He was responsible for Advanced Australia Fair. Did anyone
sort of
no one really called him out on
funny
that?
isn't it?
Yeah. So really, go figure that one out.
Yeah.
But and then that all sort of culminates in Scott Morrison's decision in 2021 to replace Young and Free with One and Free. And you would probably have to say, I mean, I don't like that that Morrison had essentially reacted to these activist demands.
They should have put it to the people. I think if you're going to do something to a national anthem, a flag, a day, you want to change it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a good argument, even if there's a good argument for change.
Yeah.
It's not the politician's anthem; it's ours.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get too upset about the change.
The actual substance of the change.
Because I agree, we are one, and we are free, or we should be when we're at our best.
Yeah.
But I didn't like that it was just done behind closed
Well, it
doors
was
in
done.
Canberra, and said, "Well, too bad, you're just going to have to deal with it."
Yeah. And it is quite interesting, though, that change seems to have taken a lot of the steam out of the change the anthem crowd.
It kind of actually worked.
I think it did.
Yeah.
I think it did in that sense. So I think, the time since then has shown that the anthem itself seems to be quite safe.
Yes.
But there's a different attack going on, the national anthem, and it's okay. So they're not focused on changing the anthem now. What they're doing is they're pretty much just pushing it to the side.
Boycotting.
It's like a boycott. It's like, oh, actually, let's do other things instead of the national anthem. And so in the last 5 years, you've really seen the sort of prevalence of welcome to country and acknowledgement of country ceremonies at public events in places in which the national anthem would have once been performed.
That's a very good observation.
Yeah.
And you do reference in here, it was a big thing in the US, I think, 5 years ago or something, when a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but a decent number of high-profile professional American sports people were taking a knee or just not singing the American anthem.
Yep.
And that did come into
That was
Australia.
That was just imported,
Yeah.
like directly.
The actual, I remember with,
Paul Gorrie just says, "Yep, no, they've got the right idea, and we're going to do it here."
who's that?
Paul is an activist. At the
Oh,
time.
right, yeah.
But he sort of launches this campaign around, roughly 10 years ago,
Yeah.
mainly centered on, I think it starts in relation to the NRL and AFL grand finals, calling on players to essentially boycott the national anthem. And and he specifically cites Colin Kaepernick
Yeah.
and the
He was
take
the
the knee
NFL,
crowd.
wasn't he?
Yeah, the NFL player. So yeah, it's like essentially they're taking it. Yeah, they're just importing something directly from America.
Do you remember when the cricketers did that? They were going to take a knee, but then there was a lot of public backlash.
Yeah,
So then they all stood in a circle in bare feet. Do you remember that?
yeah.
And it was like at 9 a.m. in the morning or so. So like Cricket Australia had made a big thing out of it.
Yeah.
And then oh no, we've got this one wrong. Turns out that people don't like this. And then they kind of just stood in a circle in bare feet. But that's kind of my assessment is that type of act. The welcome to country is a big problem.
Yeah.
But the problem of the active boycotting and desecration of the anthem seems to have waned.
Yeah, that's right.
But the problem now is, as you say, the replacement, which is actually, if you're an activist, the replacement is a stronger strategy.
Yeah.
You take something that people do and you change it to something else. So they're still acculturated to the concept.
The idea of doing a
Something,
civic,
but we do this instead of this.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
It is, and it's completely opposite to what was previously done, like the substance of it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the national anthem it's very much okay. Let's all join together and we'll sing. We all sing, and we all acknowledge that, we're part of something bigger than ourselves. We're all members of this Australian community, and this country is something that belongs to us all.
Yes.
And welcome to country is actually the opposite message. It's not everyone participates in welcome to country, because you have people who are being welcomed and the people who are doing the welcoming.
Well, it's often only one person.
Yeah.
It's one person standing there.
Yeah.
You make a very good observation.
So
It's
fundamentally a divide. It's fundamentally the division of people.
and exclusionary.
Yeah, exclusionary. Exactly.
Very good observation. Yeah, I think, well, it is. I mean, this is why we do this work, because, I think a lot of Australians have a sense of this stuff.
Yeah.
You feel
That's what the data shows.
it shows that, and, you feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable at the footy or wherever you are when there's welcome to country, or you feel that something's not right. But what you've said then is very important, which is that we used to have an anthem that we sing together that would be for everyone.
Yep.
And now we have to sit there and cop
Yeah.
a relatively aggressive welcome to country, which makes everybody feel bad about themselves.
Yeah.
And how is that meant to be progress?
Well, that's it. And but we're told that it's just being polite and respectful.
That's it.
Well, we had a separate survey that was about a month ago, which found that 60% of Australians find that actually welcome to country is just divisive. Yeah, it's become divisive. Like, they've recognised it for what it is.
Yes.
No matter how many times they're told that it's about being respectful, no, they understand the nature of it.
Do you reckon we're almost there with getting rid of this stuff? Or
Oh,
it feels like it's getting easier to debate.
Yeah.
I remember, like, a few years ago, if you were criticising I'm not criticising the concept of welcome to country at all, because I accept that that's an important part of Indigenous culture. I don't have a problem with the concept. The problem I have with it is its ubiquity and its inappropriate use, and the fact that it's become aggressive and unwelcoming.
Yeah.
I don't feel welcomed by welcome to countries.
Of course. Of course.
But I remember
Today, it's about making this is about some people making a moral claim to the land, and about telling other people that they're essentially visitors.
Yeah. And what we're saying,
And people don't want to be told that they're visitors to their own country.
no. And what we're saying with the flag, with the anthem, is it's everyone.
Yeah.
We're all included.
Well, this is what national symbols are about. It's about providing those shared experiences and shared traditions, which can be enjoyed by everyone.
Yeah. And we'll better get on to questions, because this is great discussion, but I'm very engrossed in this. But we'll get to questions. One other observation is Australia is not a blood and soil country.
Yeah.
So a lot of, whether it's, particularly Europe and other, I guess, longer running, if you like, countries that can appeal to a religious history or a certain cultural, ethnic history.
Yeah.
Colonial nations don't really have that. And so, so what we need, a country like Australia needs more than other countries, I would say, are our shared values, because that's all we have.
That's it.
So otherwise, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
We're just people that happen to exist on an island.
That's exactly right. Exactly. We're on an island. It's a big island, but we have to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so you need.
Well, we
those
have to figure it
symbols.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
and it's being, we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is really great work in History's page done by Vulcan Begg. Now, this is out on our website online. We're going to have the hard copies in next week. And we will get in touch with all of you about how you can get your hands on a copy. And I will just let you know, we maybe talk about this a bit more, but we do have a very extensive distribution plan for this. So getting it to members of parliament, getting it into schools and libraries across Australia, and promoting it across social media. So this is not just sort of a one and done thing. We have sort of several months of program of getting this out into the community, which I think is really exciting. Yeah. Okay, so let's do a bunch of questions, and also please put it in the chat if you've got some questions. We've got about a couple dozen here. We've got lots of questions. So let's kick off. We'll start with Rosalind. We've sort of talked about this, but I do like Waltzing Matilda, so I'll bring it up again. How about replacing our current boring dirge with Waltzing Matilda, but the Swagman lyrics replaced with more appropriate formal words? I like the swag.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's a part.
You gotta keep the swag, man, and the jump
Jump
up.
buck. Jump buck is one of the greatest Australian words. I mean, Slim Dusty was a master. I mean, I know he didn't write the original words, but he
Brought it.
he brought it. So, yeah, fair point. I'm
Yeah, I mean, I'm always loath to change words.
Yeah.
Like, by default.
yes. This is interesting from Mitchell. Who is responsible for the pro-immigration rhetoric in our current national anthem?
Yeah, so that's quite interesting, the history on that. So the actual official lyrics of the national anthem were decided in 1984. Up until that point, there were no real official lyrics to Advance Australia Fair. They had been sort of used and adapted by various people over the years. And in 1984, the government forms a council, which essentially has the task of, determining what are the official words. And one of the lines that Mitchell is referring to, I would assume, is, for those who've come across the seas with boundless plains to share. Now, the original pre-1984 version of that is for loyal sons across the seas with boundless plains to share.
British Empire.
Yeah. I think it very much probably a reference to British Empire, loyal subjects of the king or queen. But there is a bit of there's almost like an implication of quid pro quo. If you're loyal, if you join Team Australia, then there's an Australia for you.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And then the change is, and of course this is part of making it de-Britishing it, I suppose, is they've just sort of generalised it to, for those who've come across the seas with boundless plains to share. But I think something was lost in taking out the reference to loyalty.
Yeah. I don't mind the change, I've got to be honest, because it allows people to be included.
I think
So even if you are a migrant, it might be off-putting to have the original words in a way.
Yeah.
Now, you might not. Maybe you can say, well, too bad. But I think it's a way of probably encouraging people to adopt it more.
Yeah. No, you might be right. And of course, the reference to sons, there was very much an effort at that time to remove references to sons. Australian sons, let us rejoice, was changed to Australians all let us rejoice, that sort of thing. So that was part of the rewrite as well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. We will. A couple here. So Jeff, I voted for Waltzing Matilda. Good on you, Jeff. What, if any, advantages? Well, this will be the last Waltzing Matilda thing. What, if any, advantages do you think that a social justice song about a marginalised man would have had as our national anthem? I mean, he was basically a crook, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's an interesting interpretation.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he steals the sheep and then he's sort of chased by the true bird.
Yeah,
and then jumps into the river.
Yeah. I guess maybe. I'm not sure.
The actual story of Waltzing Matilda, I'm not sure if that was entirely appropriate.
No.
But it is a very Australian tune. So I keep hearing from people who said they did vote for Waltzing Matilda, or they would have. Is there anyone on the call that voted for God Save the Queen? I want to hear from those people.
Well, why don't we throw it and also save the Song of Australia?
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
let us
big Adelaide crowd and the big Adelaide membership.
I brought up the membership in Adelaide. That's right. I'll get to a couple. So there's a couple people who have actually talked about the Seekers song. Is that the one that's I am, you are, we are Australian?
Yeah.
Is that a different?
I think that's the one.
There's a couple people,
according to Peter. So
people like that song.
They do.
Yeah. I wouldn't change it. I mean, I would also throw in, well, if you're going to do another plebiscite, what would you?
No.
If you were going to choose, let's do this.
Jeez.
I reckon actually also if anyone wants to throw in their suggestions, if we're going to have another plebiscite, what options would you throw in? You'd have to have at least one AC/DC song.
Yeah.
You'd have to have a plebiscite on which AC/DC song to have as well.
And then you have the run-up.
You have the run-up.
Jailbreak.
I was going to say problem child. That's an under. As we're sort of the problem
of the empire.
All right. This is actually interesting from Yvonne regarding the change to the anthem. Did Morrison I guess it's what gave Morrison the legal authority to change the word in the anthem. Now, obviously, he has the.
Yeah.
Was it? Do you know if it was just a declaration?
Just by proclamation of the Governor General. So essentially,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So essentially, the Prime Minister at the time just essentially gave advice to the Governor General to proclaim the new lyrics.
Yeah. Okay.
Now that's the legal authority, but I think the question about that is, what was the moral authority, or what was the political mandate
Yeah.
for taking that change? And that's what we were talking about before, was, just unilaterally doing it
Yeah.
is something that we instinctively don't like because people don't own it.
Well, and it's created an awkwardness because some people still sing Young and Free. I instinctively sing that.
Yeah, well, that's what we learned, isn't it?
And so I will say it's a typical Morrison thing, which is just to go and do it without getting. But if you actually believed in the change, like I say, you're much better off getting consent.
Yeah.
But then you would have had to have a debate about it, and he probably didn't want that.
Mm.
But I don't think it would have been a bad thing. I don't think having debates about these things are bad at all.
No, correct.
Now, this is a very interesting observation, which goes a little bit beyond the anthem. But I think it goes to what you've been writing about in your series of research essays from Anthony. And he talks here about Bob Santamaria, who came to this country from an immigrant background, had a view that a civilization survives not merely through wealth or laws, but through the moral beliefs, loyalties, traditions, and institutions it transmits to the next generation. Do you agree with this summary? I certainly agree with that summary. I mean, that's bang on.
100%.
Yeah.
Completely true. I mean, that is what a society is.
Yeah.
It's traditions.
Well, that's
Yes,
right.
it's
That's what it
values. So, and these symbols that we're talking about, the flags and the anthems and the traditions like honouring Australia Day, like that is how you communicate those values to the next generation. So
that's why we care about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's why we're doing this work.
Why do you guys, one of the, I guess, criticisms that we get from doing this is, why do you guys keep banging on about this stuff?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because it's really important.
Yeah.
And when you actually, it's not just like jingoistic. It's no, these things is like a flag is not just color on fabric. A song is not just the words, but the meaning it conveys about the values of a society.
Yeah.
And that's why we care about this stuff so much, because if we're not passing it on, which we haven't been, that's why, it should be sung at schools, at a minimum, and other community events. I mean, imagine every time a plane landed, rather than getting a welcome to country, you got a bit of the anthem.
Yeah, well,
What do you reckon?
absolutely.
Even if it's just 15 seconds of the anthem.
I completely agree. No, absolutely. I'd still, it used to be played in cinemas before the movie was played.
I haven't been into a cinema for a long time.
Well, they haven't put out enough that would be worth going to see. But just like, you want as much as possible to have those shared civic experiences.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much because there are a lot of good questions. But here's the thing: wouldn't that be so? Say you've got take the airlines as an example, because this is the thing that annoys the people. Well, probably the footy annoys people the most, and airlines is probably a close, because people don't necessarily fly every week, but they watch the footy every week, or the cricket, or rugby, or whatever. But take the airlines as an example. I mean, wouldn't it be in their commercial interest to do the anthem or something? Because I think people would like it.
Yes,
but they don't.
I don't know, because they have to know how people feel about.
Maybe they
having an acknowledgement of country.
Maybe they don't.
At the start and end every flight.
I don't know if they do it at the start.
Yeah.
But they certainly do it
at the end as we land. So why would you want people to sort of leave your service with a negative experience?
Yeah.
With it?
Well, I guess because it's basically an oligopoly. So if you fly with either of them, they do it.
Yeah.
But I reckon if, let's just say, I won't use a name, but say airline company A was to say, we're doing the anthem, I would do everything in my power to fly with them.
Yeah, agreed. Well,
so anyway, we're not in business, so you go. So this one is from Lynn, and it touches on a little bit, and I might just round out the discussion of the welcome to country with this. What steps do you feel we should use to revert to using a single flag to represent us? Many people find the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags to be divisive, along with welcome to country and acknowledgements, as we've been discussing. So I think, yes, I find them divisive.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with, as I said, welcome to country or acknowledgement to countries as a concept or in proper places. I also think the Aboriginal flag is fine in certain contexts, but I do not agree. And it means something to certain people as well. And I'm not trying to diminish that, but a nation can only have one flag to represent it.
That's it.
And when it's at, particularly on parliamentary business or anything official, anything representing Australia in any capacity, whether it's parliamentary, whether it's a sporting, if you're representing the nation, this is why I get so fired up about sport, particularly with national teams, because you're representing Australia with the coat of arms on your Guernsey or on your shirt. So you should only have the Australian flag for those. And also, if you want to have a more, this is sort of a lower tier argument, but if you're receiving taxpayer money as well, as all of these sporting institutions do, you're getting it from appropriations from the Commonwealth Government of Australia. But what steps should we take? Well, I think that one step is that you only have one flag at official.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's a legislative fix.
Yeah, most people believe this, and it's not even a legislative fix.
Isn't it? How would they do it? Just proclamation again?
Essentially, this is just this is really what the Albanese government has done, which is the use of the three flags. It's just a custom. They just started doing it.
See, they're smart,
and the Prime Minister's department, they have a guide or a book on flag protocols, right?
Yes,
and you just need to reissue that.
Yeah,
in line with what the community actually wants to see. In how the flags are used. Of course, the Flags Act does include reference to the Indigenous, the Aboriginal flag, and the Torres Strait Islander flags as having official status, but that doesn't tell you how they are to be used.
Right.
That's actually just determined by the government of the day.
Yep.
So you just need a good government to do good things.
Take it on. Yeah. Well. So a couple ones here. Dennis, this is on the Qantas thing. I asked Qantas if customers had the choice of paying an extra $10 not to hear the WAP of the country. I would very happily pay for that, Dennis. That's a bargain. What did they say? If you want to send another one in the chat, let us know what they said. Will says a great option would be God Bless Australia. Have you guys heard of it? I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, no.
There was another one.
We did have a question about that, and so for those listening, God Bless Australia came about in the early 60s as a proposed Australian national anthem. Essentially what it is it's using the tune of Waltzing Matilda, but has kind of a national anthem style lyrics. It sounds great. And I think but you don't get jumbuck.
No, it's not around that.
So if that's your deal breaker, which it is,
that is a deal breaker.
It's not going to work.
That's a very exciting one.
Again, it's a perfectly good tune.
Yeah. Johnny Cash did a rendition of Waltzing Matilda.
Interesting.
Look, Johnny. I have to have a look. It was one of the old-style American ones, and he was singing it, explaining what the words meant as he went. He did it very well.
Oh, gee, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I'll have to dig it up.
Yeah.
So a couple of others. John says, what about I Still Call Australia Home? It's a song that fills me with pride and brings tears to my eyes every time I hear it. Yeah, it's a great song.
Yep.
Put it on the plebiscite list.
That's it, yes.
So we'll just round out. So we've got a few minutes left, so feel free to send through your final questions if you do have any. So this one's for you, Morgan. What surprised you most during your research for the monograph on the anthem?
That's a good one. I think the most surprising was some of the political or the sort of broader context around the plebiscite. I had going into this, because I sort of only knew about what I had read in the popular press about the plebiscite. Oh, that this was a vote about the national anthem.
Twisted a bit to do this here. You weren't super keen. But
I took it on as it on as a challenge. Yeah. I thought, well, in my view, I would not have changed the national anthem.
Yeah.
So I took it on as a challenge to write the story about it. And I suppose, on one level, I was very pleasantly surprised about how much my opinion of Advanced Australia Fair had improved. doing this.
Well, I think the history is a big
The
one.
history is so fascinating, and Advanced Australia, and here's one you'll like. Advanced Australia was used on the coat of arms on the baggy green cap until the 1930s.
Is that right?
Yeah, so
Bring it back.
So Advanced Australia has just always been a part of the Australian story, which is very
It sounds
interesting.
good still. Like if a political party just had Advance Australia as their campaign slogan, it sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. Just in terms of what surprised was just learning more about the plebiscite. Actually, it wasn't a vote about changing the national anthem. The government is explicitly saying that it wasn't about changing the national anthem.
That's very interesting.
But that's sort of been lost
Yep.
in the decades since.
Yep. All right. Well, we might round out the chat there. Dennis did get back to us. Thanks, Dennis. He said, and this was Dennis who made the point about Qantas. I sent it to their government relations, corporate relations areas, and they never replied. Funny that. But this would be right for a bit of
There's a commercial opportunity in that for sure.
Oh yeah. I think people pay a lot of money for that. So, all right. Well, I think we'll round it out there. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion as much as I have. I really enjoy this work, and like I said, I think the real reason we do this is to sort of steelman these symbols and institutions by giving them some, intellectual underpinnings that often isn't there. Like you mentioned, there's not a ton of work out there on the Australian anthem.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more work out there on the flag and Australia Day, but not as much as you might think. And so I think one of the things that the IPA does that no other institution in Australia does is we actually go through and explain why these things are important and why we want to keep them.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of purposes. One is to reinforce with Australians that they're not the only ones that think this way. And so they need to hold the line. And also that this is not just made up. The idea of celebrating Australia Day, the idea of our flag, these aren't just made up things by a group of elites.
Yeah.
These are products of the Australian community that mean something very, very important.
And have long histories.
That's deep in our history.
That's often misrepresented, but these symbols have such long histories.
And it's our history.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not for the activists to change unilaterally. And if we do want, and we can change things as a democratic society, that's a part of democracy. But if we are going to change any of these national symbols, monuments, days, songs, then it has to be put to the people in some way. Because if nothing else, that's the only way any change will have legitimacy and acceptance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Morgan, for your work. I think this is a really interesting piece of work. So I really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you for being members of the IPA. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for your questions and your support. We'll be in touch about how you can get your hands on this beautiful, I think this is probably the nicest of the three, I reckon.
Yeah.
I like this cover.
It's
very nice.
Nice. I'm trying to sort of get a bit of the green and gold.
It's very nice. You've done a great job with this. It's beautiful. So thank you very much and have a lovely evening.